Last Tuesday, I was sitting in a waiting room, not for me, for my neighbor. She asked me to drive her because her hands were shaking, and she did not trust herself behind the wheel. We sat there for an hour and 40 minutes waiting for her name to be called. There were 11 other people in that room. I counted. Most of them were over 50. A few were younger than I expected. Every single one of them was there for the same reason. The pressure. That is what they call it now. The pressure. Everybody has it, or everybody knows somebody who has it. Go to any dinner table in any house on any street and ask. Somebody at that table is dealing with it. Somebody at that table has a little bottle in the medicine cabinet that they take every morning. Sometimes 2 bottles, sometimes 3. And that little bottle costs, well, it depends, but it is not free. And it is not once. It is every month, every refill. For the rest of your life, they tell you. The rest of your life. I am not here to talk about that bottle. I am not here to tell you to throw it away. Listen to me carefully, because this is the most important thing I will say today. If a doctor gave you something to take, you take it. Do you hear me? You take it. That is between you and your doctor, and it is none of my business. But here is what I am here to say. There was a time, and it was not that long ago, when the pressure was not the epidemic it is today. My mama's generation, my grandmother's generation, they worked harder than most people alive today can imagine. Sunup to sundown in heat that would make you cry, carrying, lifting, bending, walking miles on dirt roads with no shade. And the pressure? It existed, but it did not sit on every household like it does now. Something changed, not in the body. The body is the same body it has always been. Something changed in what we put into it. Something changed in how we live around it. And what my generation knew, what was in our kitchens, what was in our gardens, what was in the way we ate and moved and rested, most of that has been forgotten. Not because it stopped working, because it got replaced by something faster. I am going to show you 4 things that were in my mama's kitchen and in her daily life that I still use in mine. They are not medicine. I am not calling them medicine. They are food. They are habits. They are the way we lived before everything changed. What you do with them is between you and your own good sense. My name is Mitty. I am 80 years old. I grew up in the Mississippi Delta, where you either figured out how to take care of yourself or you did not get taken care of. I have been cooking, growing, and preparing food the way my mama taught me for over 60 years. She lived to 91. Her mama lived to 88. Neither one of them sat in a waiting room for an hour and 40 minutes. The hibiscus water. My mama did not call it hibiscus. She called it the red flower water. She had bushes growing along the fence on the south side of the house. Deep red flowers, the color of blood, the kind that open wide in the morning and close up when the sun gets too high. She would pick them, pull the petals off, and dry them on a sheet of newspaper on the porch. When they were dry and crinkled and dark, she would store them in a glass jar with a lid. That jar sat on the kitchen shelf next to the tea. Every morning before breakfast, she would put a small handful of dried petals into a pot of water, about 4 cups, and bring it to a boil. Then she would turn it off and let it sit for 10 minutes. The water turned red, deep, dark red, almost like wine. She would strain it into a pitcher through a piece of cheesecloth and let it cool. Sometimes she added a squeeze of lemon, sometimes a little honey. Most times she drank it plain. Room temperature, 1 big glass in the morning, 1 in the evening. It is tart, somewhere between cranberry and lemon. The first time I tasted it as a child, I made a face, and my mama laughed and said, "The body does not care what your face thinks. You can buy dried hibiscus flowers at most grocery stores now, usually in the tea aisle or the Mexican food section. They come in bags. A bag costs about $3 to $4 and lasts 2 to 3 weeks of daily drinking. That is less than what most people spend on one visit to the coffee shop." Why did my mama drink it? She said it kept the body calm, not calm like sitting still, calm on the inside, calm in the way the blood moves. She said when the blood rushes too hard, it wears the body out from the inside where nobody can see it. And the red flower water told the blood to slow down and stop being in such a hurry. Those were her words. That is how she explained it. I never had a better explanation. The store sells boxes of specialty teas in fancy packaging, $12 to $18 for 20 bags. My mama's red flower water from a $4 bag of dried petals gave her more than 40 servings. That is the difference. If you are still here with me, good. What is coming next is something most people have sitting in their kitchen right now and do not even know what it can do. The garlic water. Now, I know what you are thinking. Garlic. Everybody's grandmother says garlic, and you are right. Everybody's grandmother does say garlic. There is a reason for that. There is a reason every old woman in every kitchen in every community I have ever known kept garlic within arm's reach of the stove. It was not just for flavor. It was not just for cooking. My mama used it for cooking too, do not get me wrong. She put garlic in everything. But there was a separate thing she did with garlic that had nothing to do with dinner. Every night, and I mean every single night for as long as I can remember, she would take 2 cloves of fresh garlic, peel them, crush them with the flat side of a knife, and drop them into a glass of water. She would let that glass sit on the counter overnight. In the morning, she would drink the water, not the garlic, just the water. She would fish the cloves out and throw them away. She drank the water that the garlic had been sitting in all night. Her breath afterward was, well, let us just say my father kept his distance until about noon, but she did not care. She said, "I would rather smell like garlic than feel like the ground." Why this works, and I am going to say it the way she said it, not the way a book would say it. Garlic, when you crush it and let it sit in water, releases something into that water, something sharp. You can smell it. That sharpness, when it goes into the body, helps the blood move the way it is supposed to move. Not too fast, not too hard, just right, like oil in a machine that has been grinding. The garlic does not force anything. It just makes everything move easier, smoother. That is how Mama explained it, and that is how I am explaining it to you. A head of garlic costs about 50 cents. 1 head gives you enough cloves for a full week of this. 50 cents a week. $26 a year. I do not even need to tell you what the store charges for the capsule version of this. Those little pills in the brown bottle on the supplement shelf that promise the same thing and charge you $30 for a month's supply. $360 a year for something that costs $26 in its original form, sitting right there in the produce section. Before I go on, if you know somebody who needs to hear this, share it. That is how this knowledge moved through my community. Nobody wrote it in a book. Nobody put it on a shelf with a price tag. It went from one kitchen to the next because somebody cared enough to pass it on. The daily walk. This one is not a food. It is not something you drink or eat or prepare. It is something you do. And it is the one my mama was most stubborn about. More stubborn than she was about the garlic. More stubborn than she was about the red flower water. This was the one she would not negotiate on. My mama walked every single day. Every day. Rain, heat, cold, it did not matter. She walked in the morning after her first glass of red flower water and before breakfast. Not far, not fast. She was not training for anything. She just walked. Down the road to the bend where the old oak tree was and back. That was about 20 minutes. Maybe 25 if she stopped to look at something in somebody's garden, which she did more often than she admitted. She said, and I remember this because she said it so many times, the body was not built to sit. It was built to move. And when you stop moving, the blood forgets how to move too. I used to think that was just an old woman's opinion. I do not think that anymore. I am 80 years old and I still walk every morning. Not because somebody told me to. Because on the mornings I do not walk. I can feel it by noon. The body feels heavier, tighter, like everything inside is sitting still when it should be flowing. There is no cost comparison for this one, because walking is free. It has always been free. Nobody can put it in a bottle. Nobody can charge you for it. It is the one thing the store cannot sell you, and it might be the most important thing on this list. The potassium switch. My mama never used that word. She did not know that word, but she knew the thing. She knew it in her hands, in her garden, in her cooking. Here is what she knew. She knew that salt, regular table salt, the white kind in the round blue container, made the body hold on to things it was supposed to let go of. She said, "Too much salt makes the body tight." That was her word, tight. And she knew that certain foods, the ones she grew in her garden, the ones she cooked every single day, loosened what the salt tightened. Sweet potatoes. She grew them every year. Big, orange, heavy things that came out of the ground looking like they had been there since the beginning of time. She baked them, she boiled them, she mashed them, she put them in everything. Beans, every kind. Black-eyed peas, lima beans, butter beans, red beans. There was always a pot of beans on the stove. Always. My whole childhood smells like beans simmering on a wood stove. That is not a metaphor. That is what I remember. Greens. Collards, mustard greens, turnip greens. She cooked them slow with a little bit of smoked meat for flavor and a splash of vinegar at the end. We ate greens almost every night. I did not appreciate it then. I appreciate it now. Bananas. We did not grow those. Somebody at church brought them sometimes from a trip to town. When we had them, Mama made sure every child got one. She treated bananas like they were precious, because to us, they were. What all of these have in common, and my mama knew this without ever reading a word about it, is that they carry something inside them that balances out what salt does to the body. The salt tightens. These foods loosen. The salt makes the body hold. These foods help the body let go. My mama did not have the vocabulary for it, but she had the practice. Every meal she cooked was built around this balance without her ever naming it. A bag of dried beans costs about $1.50. Sweet potatoes cost about $1 a pound. A bunch of collard greens cost $2 to $3. Bananas cost about 25 cents each. A week of eating the way my mama cooked costs less than $15 in produce and dried goods. The bottle on the pharmacy shelf that does what these foods do naturally costs $30 to $60 a month. Over a year, that is $400 to $700. The garden version costs a fraction of that. That is not a detail. That is a decision you make at the grocery store every single week. If this is making sense to you, subscribe. I have so much more to tell you, and I do not want you to miss what is coming. Now, I need to say something, and I need you to hear it. Really hear it. These 4 things, the red flower water, the garlic water, the walking, and the way my mama cooked, they are not a replacement for what your doctor told you to do. They are not. If you are taking something that a doctor gave you, you keep taking it. You do not stop because an 80-year-old woman on the internet told you about garlic water. That is not what I am doing here. I am showing you what my generation lived by. I am showing you the way we ate and moved and prepared food when nobody had a choice. And I am telling you that those habits, not miracles, habits, were part of a life that looked different than what I see today when I sit in that waiting room and count 11 people who all have the same problem. I am not a doctor. I never was. I never will be. What I am teaching you is what was passed down to me by a woman who lived to 91 on food she grew and water she boiled, and a road she walked every morning. If your body is telling you something serious, go see somebody who studied for that. I mean it. Go. But if you are also interested in what was in the kitchen before there was a pharmacy, the way people ate, the way people moved, the things they drank every morning without thinking about it because it was just how life was, that is what I am showing you. That is all I am showing you. Let me put the numbers together one more time. The red flower water, about $4 every 3 weeks. The garlic water, about 50 cents a week. The walk, free. Eating the way my mama cooked, about $15 a week in groceries. Compare that to what the shelf charges for the capsule versions, the processed versions, the bottled and branded versions of the same things that were growing in my mama's garden. The difference in a year is hundreds of dollars. Hundreds. And that is money that stays in your house instead of somebody else's. Here is what I want you to do. Not all 4 at once. That is not how my mama did it, and that is not how I am going to tell you to do it. Pick one. If you have never tried hibiscus, go buy a bag of dried flowers this week and make the water. Drink 1 glass a morning for 7 days. If you already drink tea in the morning, this is an easy swap. If the garlic does not scare you, try the overnight water for 5 nights. Just 5. If you have not been moving, and be honest with yourself, start walking. 20 minutes. That is all. Down the street and back. Do it before breakfast. Do it while the air is still cool and the neighborhood is still quiet. See how you feel after 1 week. Tell me in the comments which one you are going to start with. I want to know. And this is the part I care about most. If your mama or your grandmama had her own morning habit, her own kitchen practice, her own things she did every day that she said was keeping her going. Write it down, right here. Because that is the kind of knowledge that dies in silence. It dies when nobody asks and nobody tells, and one day the woman who knew it is gone and the kitchen is empty, and nobody remembers what was in that jar on the counter. I read every comment, every single one. And the ones that carry somebody's grandmother's voice in them, those are the ones I keep. Next time, I am going to show you something that connects directly to today. There is a tea, one single root, that my mama dug up behind the house every fall and dried on the porch and kept in a coffee can on top of the refrigerator. She drank it every night before bed. She said it let the body rest in a way that sleep alone could not do. I have been making it for 50 years, and I have never talked about it on this channel. That is coming next. Subscribe so you do not miss it. What everybody calls the pressure is not something that just happened to us. It is something that happened to the way we eat, the way we move, and the way we forgot what was already in the kitchen. The food is still there. The road is still there. The water is still there. You just have to go back to it.